Call-in user, could you identify who you are, please?
Yes, Andy Spicer.
Thank you.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Thanks, Jim.
Pretty good, Dennis. So we still have a few people to get on here yet.
No problem. My other meeting ran late, so I'm doing it from my phone, and I haven't done that on my phone yet. So Anyway, once you get, I just wanted to make sure I was connected.
Yep. See you tonight. Take it easy. All right.
Well, I was going to try to do the meeting from this conference room so I wouldn't have to wear my mask because I have to wear my mask at my desk, but I can't access my drives for some reason in the conference room. That's really strange. So I'll be right back. I got to go back to my desk.
All righty.
Jim, unless you're going to share, I only needed to access my screens for the applicants. Will you be able to share those applications I sent this morning?
I have those pulled up so I can share those.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure I have the right, let's see, that's previous meeting minutes. This appears to be our agenda for today. All right, yeah, so I had the wrong one up there for you. And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, we do have possibly a quorum now. So let's see. Patty, Dennis, and Michael, yes. So, Patty, if you give me a moment to start the recording here, I believe we could call this meeting to order and get started. Go ahead.
Thank you. We are calling to order this meeting of the Skilled Trades Review Board for the City of Columbus. And the first thing I'd like to do, yes.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me, I know. Okay, once
That's
again, thank you all. This is the April 21st meeting of the Skilled Trades Review Board of the City of Columbus, and we're calling to order. The first item on our agenda, I'd like to do a roll call. Mr. Hartz.
Present.
Mr. Hill is not here. Mr. Hoover is not here. Mr. Consul, not here. Mr. Landers,
Present.
Mr. Watkins,
Present.
and Patty Spangler, myself, I am here. So we do have a quorum. 4 members are here today. Okay. The next on our agenda is to read and accept the minutes from our previous meeting in March. And Jim, if you could share those, we'll take a quick look at those. And
can do
I'd
that
like a
for you.
motion to I'd like a motion to accept them.
I'm waiting for them to pop up on the screen here. I'm not sure how fast it gets out to you, so I have to give me a second. I'm actually watching the stream live as well. Okay.
Then the live stream has a bit of a delay.
Patty, I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll take the roll call on that. Mr. Hartz,
Approve.
Mr. Landers,
Approved.
Mr. Watkins,
Approved.
and I approve as well. So we will accept the minutes as written for the March 17th meeting.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that?
Michael Watkins.
Thank you.
All right. The next on my agenda is to acknowledge the guests that we have here with us today. I see Rick Taylor and Chris McCord. Who else do we have today?
You have Zach Swisher, attorney on behalf of Taylor Mechanical.
I somehow dropped myself off of this call.
No, you're on there.
Are you still with us, Jim?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just don't see my face right now. So.
Okay,
Jim,
great.
don't watch the live feed. The live feed is delayed.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. For our guests, Jim, will they be offering testimony in front of us today?
I think the only question we had outstanding was they wanted to verify there were no other previous, references to the board for the contractor. Number one. Number two is the license holder wasn't actually present at the last meeting, and it's really the license holder's, right to know what actions may or may not be taken against them.
Okay, so should we swear them in for testimony?
I think we do it anyway, just in case there is any testimony given.
Okay, great. All right, so Mr. Taylor, Mr. Swisher, and if I've missed someone, if you will or you may offer testimony when we get to your item on our agenda, I'd like to ask you to affirm that anything that you'll state in front of this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And if you could just one by one affirm that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Zach Swisher, affirmed.
Thank you.
Richard Taylor, affirmed.
Thank you.
Board affirmed.
Thank you.
We may need Andy Spicer to confirm.
Yes.
Andy Spicer, confirmed.
Thank you.
And I will test it also, just in case I have to testify to something.
Okay, thank you. I was actually going to circle back to you, so thank you so much. All right, before we get to that, I think we've got a couple of short items on our agenda. I
I'll
don't
put
think
that
we have
back
any.
up there. Give me a second.
Okay, I don't think we have any new business, but we do have some general business, and then we have 2 applications for plumbers that the board should review, and I would like motions to approve their applications. The first one is Matthew Ball.
Patty, this is Dennis Hartz, and I will move to approve Mr. Ball's application for plumbing license.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second?
Patty, this is Ralph Landers, and I'll second it.
Great, thank you. I'm going to take the roll on that. Mr. Hartz,
Approve.
Mr. Landers,
Approved.
Mr. Watkins,
Approved.
and I approve as well. Okay, thank you. The second application we have is for Stephen Fenderson, and his application is in front of you right now. And I would like a motion to approve his application.
Patty, this is Dennis Hartz again, and I will make the motion to approve his application.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Michael Watkins. I will second.
Great, thank you. I'll call the roll on that. Mr. Hartz,
Approve.
Mr. Landers,
Approved.
Mr. Watkins,
Approved.
and I approve as well. Okay, thank you. So both of those applications have been approved. The next item on our agenda is some old business. Earlier this year, we heard a complaint on TaylorMade Mechanical. And at that point in time, the license holder was not present at our hearing. So I would like to send this over to Jim Richardson to give us some background moving forward.
Okay. What I'll do right now is I just, like as I stated, the license holder actually has a right to know what's been brought, against their license or the registration. So it appears this was brought in the January meeting. So I'm just going to read off this. It's going to be on the board here as well. But after testimony and evidence presented, Mr. Hartz made a finding of fact that TaylorMade Mechanical did work without a warm air heating and ventilation permit, refrigeration permit, and without electrical permits. Mr. Conskell seconded. Motion carried 4-0. Due to the fact that TaylorMade did work without without the above mentioned permits, Mr. Hartz made a conclusion of law that TaylorMade Mechanical is guilty of violating City Code sections 4013.57 4013.63, and 4013.73, 4013.69 of the city code. And due to the fact that TaylorMade has been found guilty of violation of the above sections, the board actually tabled their action so they could do a little bit more research, make sure they have not been previously brought before the board. Now, that motion also passed 4-0. So that really kind of, sums it up for Mr. Spicer, since he's carrying their license. And we haven't had a recommendation yet as to whether there will be any kind of a action against the license/registration. So that's what's before the board at this point.
And this is Zach Swisher. If I may chime in, Mr. Richardson, just momentarily, if that's okay.
Absolutely. That's what you're paid for, Zach.
Yes, sir. So it's my recollection, and my notes show that the board had started to make a recommendation or a finding that that it was no penalty. I think the board seemed pleased with my clients in terms of their honesty. I think that there was some discussion that any issue that arose was out of inadvertence, and as the board was considering the action to be taken and the suggestion that no action be taken against the license holder, I believe that is when one of the board members suggested tabling that decision until confirmation that the license holder has not had any previous board action.
And you very may well be correct on that, Zach. One thing I will say is typically the board would not necessarily take no action. It would be something where they table it and they give the owners an opportunity to come up with a remedial action plan to show us how they're going to ensure as a company, how they're going to prevent this from happening again in the future for their company. Okay, so typically they would provide the board with some kind of an action plan saying, okay, well, here's the steps we're going to take internally that would prevent this from happening in the future. This person's going to be responsible for it, or it goes to this group or whatever, to make sure before we even step foot on the property that we have our permit in hand.
Absolutely.
That's just I'm just saying typically what the board would ask for, and I would assume that would have been something they would have asked for if they hadn't tabled it. They just want to make sure there was no other previous action, I think, first before they even decided to do anything with that. So this could be something where they're still going to ask for that. I don't know. I can't speak for the board. I'm just trying to give you a history of what we typically do.
And that's perfectly reasonable. And I know that my clients would be willing to do that. And obviously the three of them, including the license holder, is present today. And I know that they would be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have, as well as discuss, whatever remedial action plan that can kind of prevent anything like this from happening again.
So Patty, back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does the board have questions for TaylorMade Mechanical to kind of reopen our discussion on the penalty phase for the finding of guilty?
Hello, Patty. This is Dennis Hartz, and my question would be: is what kind of plans does TaylorMade have in place now to ensure that the permits are pulled before work begins?
Don't mind, I'd like to chime in on this as well. We had an internal meeting already about this because.
Can I hold you for a second? Could you please, when you come in, announce your name for Tony so she can get it written down for us properly? When you chime in.
Yeah, it's Chris.
And maybe speak up a little, please.
Okay, yeah, sorry, this is Chris McCord. Answer that question if I would, please. We have already discussed, had a little meeting already about this, that, we get so busy getting the jobs and the material and trying to get everything put together. Sometimes the general contractors don't send it to us fast, you know, we'll get the job, but try to just it's full before we start work in the future.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mr. McCord.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so am I.
Unfortunately, Chris, I think we were catching about every other syllable there for a second. So I don't know if you just have a bad connection right now or what's going on.
It probably is. I apologize. I'll try it again. We did have an internal meeting, Rick and I discussed it with Andy, but we get kind of caught up with trying to get the jobs together and load material and schedules and things like that. And sometimes, you know, we've been irresponsible not pulling the permits when we're supposed to on time. So, you know, we always do pull them, but just that we're going to make sure that we have the permits in hand before we start loading the jobs.
This is Michael Watkins, and I believe we tabled this because we wanted to see if there was any past violations. So were there any past violations?
We did not find any, Michael.
Mr. McCord, is there someone that specifically in your organization that is now tagged with the responsibility of pulling permits?
Yes,
Yeah,
Patty.
Richard Taylor.
Yes, this is Richard Taylor. Patty, the answer to that question is me. At that time, like I said, I took total responsibility for that. I was supposed to have grabbed them. I got busy in the mean. The job kind of went on hold. Yeah, it was totally my negligence. They got started in lieu of, I had forgot to pull them. Like I said, it was, I take 100% responsibility for that. But now, before we step foot on any job, no matter which, you know, mechanical we're doing in there, it's the permit is pulled and done.
Okay, and do you have a process that you know that the other people in your organization know not to work until they see a permit? You know, how do
Absolutely.
you back check that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a smaller organization, so therefore, yeah, nobody steps foot on until I confirm, yes, we're permitted. Here's the paperwork. The paperwork's on file. A lot of the contractors that I'm working with at the present time, they actually have a book on site now. So I tell them, check the book, open the book up, make sure you see our permit in there. You're good to go as long as our permit's in there. If there's any question, be sure you call me. It's as simple as, you know, clicking on the online portal, making sure we're good. There we go. But that particular job was an exception to the rule.
Okay, and Patty, if I may, real quick, just to address that one, Rick. I think what she was getting at, Rick, just for you and for, you know, for your company's sake in the future, typically when people come before the board, they will have something in terms of you know, SOP, standard operating procedure, in their, you know, employee handbooks or whatever, that say, hey, here's our process for this. You know, whether it's you, Rick Taylor, that's responsible for requiring those permits, and then letting, you know, the individuals know that they can now proceed or whatever. I think that's what she was kind of getting at or looking for, maybe. And I don't want to speak for Patty, but that's just kind of historically what we've seen provided. And I get it. If you're you know, a very small shop, you may not even be to the point where you technically have an employee handbook. So I kind of understand that as well. But that's, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of guidance there, Rick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me say this, Ms. Spangler, this is Zach Swisher. I apologize. I mean, I have been in kind of discussions over kind of the course of these hearings, and since the complaint was filed with my client, to work through with them, as Mr. Richardson pointed out, some some operating procedures, some handbook items, and we've kind of been discussing those, and frankly, not being overly familiar with kind of what the issues are that the board would point out, but kind of separate and apart from these particular hearings, I have been working with Rick and with Chris to kind of put together some of those kind of internal management documents for them, because I find them to be helpful for all my clients.
That's fantastic, Zach. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, are you at the point where you've drafted something that you could share with us that would, because while I understand that Mr. Taylor is, is the linchpin to all this, what happens when, he goes on his 2-week vacation out of the country and a job comes up? Is there a mechanism in place to make sure the permits are still pulled in his absence?
So I have not gotten to a point of drafting. Some of that was based on any guidance that we were kind of waiting on for kind of this board to point out to us, and we're happy to kind of put those, the comments that this board has into kind of some formalized documents, and even provide those to the board, either through another hearing, or I can even provide those to Mr. Richardson, and he can share those with the board for your review.
I think I would be interested in seeing that, and I don't know that it needs to be, terribly formal. Just, some sort of list or something that just, kind of assures that there is a process in place. Again, because certainly we don't want to have, and we all know, we all work in this industry. We know that jobs move fast, and things happen before you get your legs under you, and all of a sudden this could happen again. So we just love to see, maybe a couple of paragraphs on here's the process that we put together.
That's not a problem.
Okay, so I guess the question then becomes, Patty, are you looking for a motion from the board to table this yet again so they can have an opportunity to put something together for the board to consider before, making a decision on a penalty phase?
I kind of feel like I've talked a lot. I'll let someone else on the board decide if they want to ask any questions or if they'd like to make a motion.
Michael Watkins, I would say, why don't we table this until we receive those documentations with past meetings we've had or violations we've had actual documentation before we moved on to the penalty or non-penalty phase.
That's true. Okay, do I have a second to Mr. Watkins' motion?
I'll second that motion. This is Ralph Landers.
Thanks, Ralph. I'm going to do a roll call on the motion to table the penalty phase pending pending submission of some sort of action plan from TaylorMade. Mr. Hartz?
I approve that motion.
Mr. Landers?
Approved.
Mr. Watkins?
Approved.
And I approve as well. So we will table this and we'd like to see sooner rather than later an action plan from TaylorMade Mechanical, just to assure us that they've got a process in place.
That sounds fine, Ms. Spengler. I will have that to Mr. Richardson as soon as possible.
Great, thank you very much.
And thank you, board, and everybody that's been involved in this. And Zach, just real quick, if you want to send it to me just to kind of preview it ahead of time, or whatever, please do that. I mean, maybe I can give you some guidance ahead of time, and in case I see something that might be something you might want to address that you didn't think of.
That sounds good.
one of the things is, and I hope Taylor made his, all the interested parties here really, are understanding that, the permitting here is the biggest part of that, even for them, is it's their first level of liability protection. And you know that as their, legal representation here. If you have a third party out there performing an inspection on their work, indicating that it's been installed in accordance with approved documents, I mean, that is their first level of liability protection. And letting that kind of thing slip away really puts them at risk. And I hate to see any contractor be put at risk like that.
Agreed. And I would appreciate that, Jim. Any feedback that you can add to that? I mean, we want to do this right, and I can promise you that as most of my clients, obviously this is a significant process for them. This is their livelihood, and this is how they make a living, and care for their family, and they want to do anything and everything that they can do to protect themselves. So I appreciate that offer.
Yeah, I want them to protect themselves too. I want to be out there to be profitable as well, So, I mean, if they're not, then, that has a detrimental effect not only on themselves, but the economy in general. So, it's kind of like the butterfly effect.
Absolutely.
So just as a process question, I'm assuming that once we provide you with those documents, the issue will be placed back on a future agenda, and you would like the four of us, especially obviously the license holder, to attend that subsequent meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted the license holder as part of this one, just so the license holder was aware of what is the potential for action against their license. Okay, because if they're not ever made aware of it, that's not very fair to them, since they're actually the license holder for the company.
Agreed.
If Andy Spicer wants to waive that right, I'm okay with it. Right, if he wants to indicate in writing to you or whatever that, hey, I'm okay if you guys go ahead with the next meeting without me there, I'm okay with that too. But at least we need some kind of notification of that, I would say.
I will have documentation of that sent to you along with the proposed policy, Jim.
Okay, that works for me. I don't want it to be something where he calls me later and says, hey, why wasn't I made aware of this?
Understood.
Okay, great. I want to thank everyone from TaylorMade and Mr. Swisher for joining us today. I think we finished your portion of the meeting, and honestly, I don't know that we have any other business on the agenda. So if there is a motion to adjourn.
I do
This is
believe
Ralph
that was the
Landers.
last
I'll
of
make
it. Yeah, sorry about that, Ralph. I was just saying that was the last of the agenda.
This is
This is
Hart's.
Ralph.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. I'll take a roll call on that. Mr. Hartz?
Approve.
So I have a motion from Ralph and a second from Dennis.
I'm sorry?
That's correct, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll start the roll call again. Mr. Hartz?
Approve.
Mr. Landers?
Approve.
Mr. Watkins?
Approved.
And I approve as well. Thank you all for your time today. We appreciate it.
Appreciate all of you being on here.
Thank
You guys
you,
all be
Pat.
safe.
Thank you, guys.
You too, Jim.
Thank you.
Patty.
All right, everyone have a great month. We'll see you.
You too.
Hey,
Thank
See ya.
you as well.